it's celebrating its 1-year anniversary. I can't believe it's been out for a year already. Like, where's the time gone? It's been a year. So I thought we'd start with a bit of a history lesson, and then we can talk about our thoughts on the headset itself. So we first got some sort of solid evidence of Valve making a VR headset around back November sort of 2018. And we were super, super hyped about it because images were leaked online showing headsets in production, and it sparked loads of conversation on this show and speculation around the headset's features.
It was more like in the end, we were more excited for Half-Life, honestly. It's like, oh, they're making a headset?
Exactly.
Half-Life.
And exactly, that's what we were saying. We were like, is Half-Life coming now? And of course, this was all just guesswork at that time. We didn't know that was actually the truth, which turned out to be amazing for everyone. But the thing is, the bit that stands out in my mind was when we were all at PAX East in Boston, about 5 months after the initial leak, and around sort of March time, 2019. We were with a bunch of friends, like, we were all there all there together in a car, traveling to like a Facebook party or something like that. Tyrael Wood was there, Cass and Cherry were there. And we were there to check out the Oculus Quest and the Rift S. And then this announcement happened by Valve of the Index. And it was like, oh my God, like all this amazing VR stuff is happening all at the same time.
It's like we're at the wrong party. That's like.
Well, for me, it was just like there's like VR overdose. Like we've just tried the Rift S and the Quest, which were great. And then we got the Valve Index coming as well. It really felt like a, a real high point.
But especially because of that troll that Valve pulled. It was like a prank they pulled where they just showed like the slider.
The IPD slider,
the slider, we only got excited over freaking slider. That was all we could really see.
And that was all due because like the Rift S didn't have an IPD adjustment slider, and that was the big sort of controversy around that headset at the time. Yeah. So then the pre-orders opened a couple of months later, around the sort of 1st of May, and we all Nathan and I desperately were sitting there pressing the F5 button on the Steam page, trying to get one as soon as they dropped, and we were lucky enough to secure like an early order, right?
I did the same. I just canceled my order. I had an order that first 5 seconds when the page opened.
Yeah, and like they sold out, I think, within an hour or so. And like I said, Zim cancelled his pre-order, but Nathan and I were pretty lucky to get something like the first.
I think we were in the first queue at the end as well, because we both bought like the. Did you also buy the full package?
The full set,
Lighthouses, Valve Index, and the controllers.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And they arrived around the sort of the 1st of July, so almost a month, the same, this week, a year ago. And since then, it's been a headset that I use regularly alongside the Rift S and the Quest as kind of like my regular go-to headsets. I don't know about you, Nathan.
Yeah, no. On PC, it's definitely my daily driver, mainly because of the speakers and also the microphone. I use it for recording all the time. It's amazing. And then we're not even talking about the display yet, but that on itself is fantastic, and the hands-free experience with the controllers, that's just super nice. It's really nice.
Yeah, and although it was a pretty successul launch, it didn't go completely smoothly because we had some issues with the controllers around release.
Still.
Back then, although I think it's been resolved now if you buy new controllers, if you've still got the old ones.
I can confirm that because I got 2 new controllers later on, and those just clicked fine and worked as they should work.
Yeah, so the issue was that you couldn't push the thumbstick down in all directions on both of the controllers, which was a really weird, annoying thing to happen, especially when you spend so much money.
You could still push it, but you didn't get the feedback of it clicking, and that is just weird.
Especially when you spent so much money, absolutely.
Yeah, especially if you spent like all of your kidneys on that.
Yeah, exactly. The other couple of things I didn't like about the headset was they use like Fresnel lenses, which do show God rays in like contrasting scenes, mainly noticeable in like loading scenes and like title screens. But when you're in game, you don't really notice it at all. And the other thing that really annoyed me was that they cancelled the production of their virtual link connector because they had an adapter initially on the website for sale. Whereas if you had like an NVIDIA RTX card, you have like a virtual link port on it. You could just plug that in and it would power the headset and have HDMI power and USB all in one cable, which would have been super nice. But sadly, they dropped that accessory just prior to the launch. And the other thing, obviously, I don't like is the price. The price is super, super high. It's a significant amount of money to be dropping on a VR headset. It's like $1,000 for the complete set.
Never spent so much money.
But like the modular nature of it, I think was very smart, and it allowed their initial foray with the HTC Vive to be converted into a Valve Index setup. So I think that was really smart, and I've seen a lot of people take those baby steps. It's almost like having an installment plan on a VR headset.
Yep.
You can go to the controllers first, you can go to the headset first, you can do either. You don't need the 2.0 base stations. So actually, although the cost is quite high, and it's the only reason I canceled, it was just like, I can't be buying 3 headsets at once. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I had a Vive already, and I was happy enough with it. So,
Okay.
I think getting the headset and the controllers like separates is nice. And for anyone who bought the headset straight out the gates and then waited past the click point, I guess they got it right on the money.
I think for me, the most, like, the two things that I did not like about my purchase a couple of months in was, first of all, Steam VR did not really get updated that much. It didn't get an overhaul. It wasn't like next level. That's something I just expected for some reason after spending so much money. Of course, now they have, added more and more, but it goes slow, It felt more like you bought like an early adopter headset.
Definitely.
Not something that necessarily was just consumer, and we're now gonna, bless you with all these updates, like you, for example, see with the Quest. And the other thing was that I was hoping, and this was just, again, like my personal expectations, that Valve was going to spend more money on developers. I was like, they're just gonna ask just what Oculus kind of did, or Facebook, like, oh, hey, Superhot, you want to make another game? Let's just publish it on Steam this time only, or and do that kind of stuff. Just find all these developers, also make some more stuff, but they didn't. And when you saw like the hand, tracking, the finger tracking in a way, like the only thing that came out was like they had the Moondust demo. That, as far as I know, you can't play anymore on Steam, or it's very well hidden.
It's hidden, yeah.
And then you have, of course, what Cloudhead did. Very exciting. After I played that, I was like, wow, this is awesome. I still think it's great. But then for example, Mike and I jumped into Arizona Sunshine, all these old games that got the support, but it didn't really add anything new to it. Well, in the Portal experience, we got to see how you can add new things to gameplay. And that's something we haven't really seen. Of course, Half-Life Alyx is a good example, but in general, what you can do in Half-Life Alyx is like you can squeeze a grenade and you can squeeze a can and you can push a button with your finger. But I wanted to see more where, what we saw with the Portal experience, where I could, do the handshaking thing and do rock, paper, scissors, like more interaction, more feeling like the world around you is alive. So for me, that was the thing that I was like, wow, I spent so much money and we were waiting and waiting for Half-Life to drop. And now after Half-Life, of course, Half-Life was a big one. I mean, that, made me super happy. And I think like maybe like half of the money, I already forgot about that. But there's still a big chunk that I spent on this, that I invested in, that I want back in playtime. And I want Valve to, like, I understand that Valve is not going to poop out games every year, but at least show that you want to invest more into other developers. But for Valve, it's just like, we make a headset and that's it. And we figured that out later. And Valve is a company who kind of reflects that too. So it's fine. But it's still, you know what I mean? That's something I'm missing. It's just
I totally agree. That we want more titles. And of course, another Valve game, like we said, that killer app, like a Left 4 Dead, I would kill for that game. I think that would be the game that would really accelerate VRs.
I'm telling you right now.
They must.
They're working on it right now.
But talking about the headset itself, the things I love it for again are the comfort, which Nathan mentioned.
The comfort is amazing.
I used this headset for a 9-hour straight live stream of Half-Life Alyx when that dropped, and it was absolutely fine using that for that long. The dial, eye relief dial,
it's amazing. Yeah.
The audio, of course, is like the best of any headset available on the market right now, and the microphone as well. And I would certainly say that if you have a budget for a Valve Index, that $1,000 price range, the Index is the one to go for over the Pimax or Vive Pro or Cosmos Elite. Maybe the HP Reverb G2 will be competition for it, but we'll have to wait and see when that actually launches. But
it's
the high-end headset of choice, I would say, for enthusiast level gamers. I
think what Valve made in the end was a great headset that will that you will be able to use for a couple of years. Talk about the Frunk. I think the Frunk was something that they could have just kind of, I don't know. I mean, there are some cool things like what you made or what you bought but still, you know what I mean? It's like,
It's useless space. It should have just been a heat dissipation
I
chamber.
was like, wow, we're getting into the modular scene, but in the end, if we look at what has been made, yeah, that's great.
FReality Podcast,
So
cute.
what I'm showing now is like one of the Frunk mods. I think this is called a mini dex. It's like LED little display, and it's just scrolling like subscribe to the FReality Podcast on the front of the headset, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah. We have also seen vans that you can put in there, but in the end, I had so many times where just the front fell off because I hit it again with my controller. I was like, why is this even a thing? And also because it's like plastic, it like you can see your fingers on it. It's something that in the end, first I thought like, wow, this is great. This is also what I pay for. But now, later down the road, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I think the next step for Valve would be if they go wireless and they get away from the base stations. I know that's hard because the whole ecosystem from Steam VR has been so deeply integrated into it that it will be hard to get away from that and get more into, for example, inside-out tracking. But that would be interesting to see Valve doing that. And I would be open for an Oculus Quest competitor from Valve with a custom Steam VR store on there with only VR games, and they just separate that kind of from what they had on PC.
The G2 is probably the Reverb G2 from HP is probably going to be the closest thing to that because it's designed with Valve on board as a Steam VR headset, but it's a Windows mixed reality headset. So I think that'll be really interesting to see when that comes. But talking about Frunk accessories, obviously I'm showing the LED mini dex Frunk accessory there, but I've also just received the Chill Dex, which is a Kickstarter campaign, which is a tiny little USB fan.
You backed it too.
I backed it too. I love Kickstarter campaigns. I haven't actually tried it yet, but I'll try it this week and I'll talk about it on the show maybe next week.
It looks a little bit like it came straight out of Portal. I don't know why, because of the
whether it'll cool the headset down in this heat, well, that'll be the ultimate test. So we shall soon see.
No, it's just in terms of,
yeah, I was just going to give the two things that I thought about the headset. Number one, the only thing that I thought was inexcusable was the God rays that you talked about on the lenses. The lens reflections on a headset that was expected to kind of smash everything at the time, I thought was inexcusable. I mean, I'd rather put a DK2 headset on and go with that lens, or even the original Vive compared to the spherical reflections I was getting in those lenses. But one thing I really appreciated, aside from the sound, which takes the cake, was the interface, the facial interface. It's the only headset with a facial interface that I think doesn't require an add-on out of the box. Because I think every other headset that I've played with out of the box doesn't have a material that feels cool, feels good against your face, and deals well with sweat as well. So I think hats off to Valve because they really turned around. Again, when they did the HTC Vive, that foam was atrocious. And I think they learned a lot from that, and they built it straight into the Index. I just wish that the form factor and all the build quality, really good. I wish the front wasn't there. And I kind of wish that the lens reflections weren't there. If that wasn't the case, it would be something that I would even consider selling my Rift S to upgrade to.
What the Valve Index has showed is that Valve is very patient, just waits out the market, sees what the rest is doing. Of course, they were partly involved with the Vive, and then in the end, they decided to make something themselves. And if you look at what you get for that price, it's fantastic. And like as you said, it fits very well, and it's super comfy. It's just that. Like when I go into Steam VR, it's still the same as like when I played VR stuff in 2016 on my Vive, and I just want something else. And that's not, for example, what Oculus Home does on Rift S. I also think that that's also not the way to go. Maybe what Quest has is the easiest I've seen so far. I just want something more, simple, more fast. Maybe that's also something that people are still experimenting with. But I feel like looking at 2016, it's not like we have really fast forwarded in any way with that.
I think the problem is, particularly like I think you experienced this as well, Nathie, is when after Half-Life Alyx dropped and you experienced that game, you kind of looked at everything else. Because the bar had been raised so high by Valve with this game, you looked at everything else and you were like, I don't want to play this stuff anymore. Do you know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. Like, they should have kept the pace there and be like, hey, Half-Life Alyx, here we freaking go. Let's push it. And here are the other indie games that are also amazing that you should play, you know, and that didn't happen. So
yeah, it's like experiencing a Five Guys burger and then being like resorted to eat McDonald's for the rest of your life.
It's like they overdone themselves.
Yeah, I don't want this anymore. I want the good stuff. So that's kind of how I felt. But things are changing now. You know, we're getting some releases on the horizon. You know, like Squadrons. I'm very hyped about. Yes. But you know, I do think we just need more games, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show. But certainly, you know, the Valve Index. You know, it's been a year now. I think, you know, it's had some really great updates in terms of UI and Steam, made it a lot easier for newcomers. Yeah. And, you know, although it comes with a hefty price tag, it's a great headset and definitely one that I would recommend buying. But just right now, they're also difficult to get hold of, just like the
Very
Quest.
Difficult.
Yeah. I think it's a couple of months minimum wait if you want to order one now.
It's one of the most difficult headsets to get right now, actually. Yeah. So so after you, what do you say? Who do you thank for this great product?
Of course, Lord Gaben, you know, for all his hard work and dedication. You know, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So that is the Valve Index, celebrating its 1 year little birthday, which we're very grateful for. It's a great headset.